And welcome back to Bengal Bites, a podcast about the Cincinnati Bengals from one fan's real, honest perspective. I'm your host, Derek. This is episode 70, big 7-0. This is the Week 11 recap where the Cincinnati Bengals took on the Los Angeles Chargers on Sunday Night Football, and unfortunately for us Bengals fans, did not go in the Bengals' favor. This was another heartbreaking loss. Bengals lost 27-34. That puts their record this season to 4-7, and they're going into their bye week. So no game for the Bengals in week 12. They'll have a week to recover and recuperate from this beating they took from the Los Angeles Chargers and Justin Herbert. The Los Angeles Chargers and head coach Jim Harbaugh are going to be basking in the glory of this win over Zach Taylor's Cincinnati Bengals. Chargers go to 7-3, and they are well within the playoff hunt, especially because the Kansas City Chiefs got their first loss of the season to the Buffalo Bills on Sunday before this game. So, Bengals fans, we can take some solace in the fact that the Chiefs and the Browns both lost on Sunday. So that was pretty cool. But in this episode, we're going to talk about this Bengals game. We're going to do the painful task of reliving this game and breaking down everything interesting that happened. Because even though the outcome didn't turn out in the Bengals' favor, this, wins and losses, it can't be what your margin for whether or not the game was entertaining and enjoyable, because then it's going to suck all the joy out of the NFL for you as an NFL fan. You can't win all the games, and you got to be able to enjoy games even when your team doesn't win. And believe it or not, there was some good things, some positive things that we can take out of this game. So I'm going to try to bring out all the positive things, all the interesting things, everything that was entertaining in this game. There's a lot. If you go and look on YouTube, this game was the NFL's feature game of the week that they have the full game up on YouTube. You can watch it on replay. That just tells you how entertaining it was. They usually put up the most entertaining game. And this game featured a 21-point comeback in the second half by the Bengals. Bengals scored 21 points unanswered to tie up the game at 27 points late and make it interesting. And so that was the biggest comeback by any team in the NFL in the second half so far this season. It was another one of those games that the Bengals have had so many of this season. One-score games, entertaining, nail-biting all the way up until the end. And just seems like the Bengals have been on the wrong end of pretty much all those games this season. In seasons past where they were winning 10 games in a row, they just so happened to squeak out all those games, those 1-point, one-score games when they needed to. And for whatever reason, this season, it's not going the Bengals' way. But we can't, they always say you got to zoom out and keep the big picture in mind. But in this case, let's not think too big. Let's just focus on this game. And there's so much to talk about in this game. I've got tons of notes, so I'll give you a warning in advance. Like they always say in those European training videos, go grab a cup of tea and, get comfortable, because this episode is probably going to be quite long, if I had to guess, just getting started here. But just warning you in advance. You can check the time codes. I'm sure that'll tell you how long you can bear to listen to this show. But most of the time, I don't listen to any podcasts before I record mine. But this time, I couldn't help myself. I had to dip in, check out a couple of the podcasts that were recorded right after the game. Some of the beat reporters record live from the stadium or whatever. I wanted to see what they would say, because there was a lot of interviews with players, and they were very emotional interviews with Zach Taylor, interviews with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase after the game. And that's all very interesting. And I think I can save all that maybe for a later episode, because the bye week's coming up. There's going to be no game to talk about. So maybe I'll have a complete breakdown of all the emotional, interesting comments that came out of these press conferences. But at the end of the day, press conference comments don't really matter. The thing that actually matters to me as a fan of the football game is what happened on the field. And I don't want to call anybody out, but this game happened on Sunday night. The end of this game was probably close to midnight. And the way that this game started off, the Bengals at halftime were losing 24-6. And right after the Chargers took the ball the first time for the second half, they got a field goal, put them up 27-6. Bengals were down by 21 points, middle of the third quarter. I'm going to bet a lot of people turned this game off, Bengals fans included, and probably went to bed, said, I got to get to work early Monday morning, late night, it's getting dark out here. A lot of people probably didn't stay up to see this comeback that the Bengals had, and they missed out on this. They just woke up and saw the score, and I guess they made it close at the end, but whatever, they still lost. So a lot of people didn't really appreciate this game for how good it actually was and how good Joe Burrow and a lot of the other Bengals players and coaches did in this game. So let's not lose sight of all that. And trust me, I was wide awake for this entire game. I watched the entire game from start to finish because, it's so fitting. They talk about waiting all day for Sunday night. That's exactly what it was. I had to plan my sleep schedule around this game because it's so hard to stay awake for 7 hours of commercial-free football on NFL Red Zone at the beginning of the day on Sunday, then, get excited for a Bengals game that's going to go all the way through up until midnight. That's a lot of football. So luckily, those second window games on the NFL Network were boring AF. I didn't have to put up with that. So I took a nap later in the day on Sunday. I had plenty of energy for this game. I drank some coffee, got some caffeine in my system. I was ready to go for this game. I was pumped up. And unfortunately, the Bengals didn't seem to come out as pumped up to start this game as I was. But, they found it somewhere maybe at halftime. They got their cup of caffeine going on. Maybe it was that time change. The Bengals got out there a day early and they were supposed to get their bodies adjusted. But whatever the reason was, maybe they just don't like playing in SoFi Stadium out in LA. I don't know what the problem is, but this was supposed to be a must-win game for the Bengals. They were going into this one 4-6, 2 games below 500, and they're still in it. This technically doesn't eliminate them mathematically, but like I said in last episode, winning makes believers of us all, and the opposite is also true. Losing makes doubters of us all. So all this back-to-back losing 2 games in a row now, it's not a good feeling. But coming into this game, the big storyline of, as always, is going to be injuries. Who's going to play? Who's not going to play? Who's going to be available? For the Los Angeles Chargers, they were going to be mostly healthy except for Khalil Mack, their Pro Bowl edge rusher on the opposite side of Joey Bosa. I was watching some of his interviews throughout the week, and it was weird how he was answering the questions and talking about when and how he got injured, and they were asking him, oh, well, was it in this game, and was it in that game? And he's like, yeah, it was in that game, and yeah, I kind of did it on this play. And so they kept question after question after question, because he said, like, he pulled one groin muscle, and then later in the same game, he pulled the other groin on the other side, and so he's talking about how he's got 2 pulled groins on both sides, and he's getting rehab in the stadium, and at home he's flying people in to rehab on both of his groin muscles. It sounds like a very involved, complicated process, but he was on like the Sunday night, pregame show or whatever they do, the interviews. They're interviewing him as one of the faces of the franchise, so he was doing everything he could to play in this game, but he didn't end up playing. So I don't know if it was some kind of game they were trying to play with making the Bengals think maybe he would play, but he did not play, didn't even suit up or get warmed up or anything. So no Khalil Mack for the Chargers. And for the Bengals, no Orlando Brown Jr., who had, I think this is going to be his 3rd game in a row that he was going to be missing. So that's another blow for the Bengals, but they did get T. Higgins back. That was very important for the Bengals to be able to get T. Higgins back opposite Jamar Chase, have another weapon to challenge that stingy Chargers defense that had not given up more than 20 points to any opponent. Their most they've given up was 20 points this season. So You can't really necessarily get excited and hang your hat on, hey, we scored 27 points, and that's the most that any team has scored against the Chargers this year, but they still lost the game. So it doesn't matter if they scored, 30 points or whatever it was. Chargers scored more points and won the game. So great job for the Bengals offense to be able to crack the code on this Chargers defense, but wasn't quite enough in the end. But you always got to remember that it's better than being a team like the Dallas Cowboys, who are completely uncompetitive, look totally inept. They don't even look like a professional football team half the time. Their star quarterback, Dak Prescott, who signed the biggest contract in NFL history, has now torn his hamstring off the bone. They required surgery. Now he's out for the rest of this season. And they got pieces of metal falling out of the roof and almost hitting somebody while they're getting in pregame warm-ups. So it could be way worse. And it's entertainment. At the end of the day, people act like this is, life and death, the most important, serious thing in the world. This is, they're just competitive, athletic entertainment contests. So win or lose, it doesn't really matter. And it's more like, I would compare it to like WWE wrestling. They call it, like sports entertainment or whatever. Like the thing that's really important is like having a good show, making a big spectacle out of things and making it fun to watch. So yes, I would prefer that the outcome was the team that I like won. And it's, the same thing in wrestling is like, even though the outcomes are predetermined, some fans have their favorite wrestler or whatever, and so they want their wrestler to win. But it's more about having a fun, interesting, entertaining match to watch than which wrestler is going to win. It doesn't matter who wins the predetermined wrestling match. It's more about like just going out there and doing something crazy. And same thing as in football. It's like, now hopefully football is not fixed. Like, is it like there's no predetermined winner like there is in wrestling? But same thing, like in football, they're going out there and putting their bodies at risk, almost putting their life on the line pretty much. And unfortunately, there was an injury in this game that wasn't quite life-threatening, but will put one of the Bengals players out for the rest of the season. But same thing, like in wrestling, you're watching these guys throwing themselves off of heights that definitely aren't safe and hitting themselves in the head with stuff. It's like, that can't be good, but it's for your entertainment. That's why they're doing it. That's why they're getting paid for. And it doesn't matter whether they win the wrestling. Nobody cares, what some wrestlers match record is. It doesn't matter. It's more like, did he do something cool in the ring? So that's kind of what we got to take out of this Bengals season. Let's not worry so much about whether they won or lost, what their record is right now. That doesn't matter as much as they still got a chance for right now, and they're still pretty fun to watch most of the time when they're not losing. So with that in mind, let's get into this game. And it kicked off, the Bengals got the ball first, and we had Jermaine Burton, number 81, the rookie wide receiver, and number 34, Khalil Herbert, as the kick returners. That means no Travion Williams out there returning kicks, and Burton got the return and got a pretty good return out to the 35-yard line to start off the Bengals' first drive. In the Bengals' first drive, Jermaine Burton made a nice catch along the right sidelines, and it looks like he didn't get that second foot down. His second foot came down well out of bounds, but on the slow motion instant replay, you can see those black rubber pellets just barely fly up as his foot skims along the surface. And if it had been on grass where you didn't have those rubber pellets, it might have been ruled an incomplete pass, because just the visual evidence without those pellets, that's the only time where that's a good situation. Normally, those things are just annoying. They fly up and they get in your eyes and stuff like that. They go down your shoes and in your socks and in your uniform and all this stuff. So the pellets normally are annoying, and they make it kind of slippery to run around on. And you see guys sometimes slipping when you wouldn't normally on grass. But in this situation, it helps Jermaine Burton. But he's got to do a little bit better job of dragging that back foot when he makes the catch, because you can't always count on those rubber pellets flying up there. But on the Bengals' first drive of this game. Third down, T. Higgins can't make the contested catch. Probably would have been short of the first down anyway, but T is pretty hard to tackle, so maybe he could have got the first down. But I think it was Cam Hart, rookie out of Notre Dame, was the cornerback. I think he's playing for Asante Samuel Jr., so not their original starting cornerback. But the Bengals are in a similar situation where they're down Dax Hill, their starting cornerback. At this point, they've got Cam Taylor-Britt and DJ Turner as their starting corners. But Bengals have to punt it after their first drive ends. They got one first down with the Burton catch, but then they have to punt. Good punt by Ryan Rico. And on the Chargers' first drive, Bengals defense forces a 3-and-out. They don't even get a first down. Good job by the Bengals defense to get a stop. And interestingly, we see Joseph Osai playing inside on the interior of the defensive line on third down because Sheldon Rankins was out for this game. I forgot to mention that earlier with the injuries, but Sheldon Rankins surprisingly came down with an illness. And as you would expect, Zach Taylor didn't get anything kind of details exactly what type of illness it was. He just said he was ill and then he couldn't play. But, that's a kind of a privacy issue. If it's like a medical issue, it's not Zach Taylor's place to really say what exactly was going on with his body, his health. Something was going on with his health, and he wasn't able to play. So that was unfortunate. That's another game that Sheldon Rankins has had to miss this season. He was their free agent signing in the interior defensive tackle, but he had to miss multiple games at the beginning of the season with a pulled hamstring. Now he's just finally getting back, and he's out another game with an illness. So we saw some different guys playing along the defensive line, including Logan Wilson later, which is kind of odd. But Logan Wilson and Trey Hendrickson do a good job of stopping the run on third down, forcing the punt. Since Charlie Jones continues to be out with that pulled groin, it must have been a serious pull for Charlie Jones, the wide receiver, punt returner. He is being replaced by Trenton Irwin. And Trenton Irwin is pretty sure-handed at catching the punts, but he doesn't do much with it on the return. But this is the Bengals' second drive, still in the first quarter. Score is still tied 0-0. Bengals get the ball. Joe Burrow does a good job of avoiding the rush, dropping back, and finds Jamar Chase for a first down on the run. And they made the comment that Joe Burrow, I think, is second most yards in the NFL on the run, scrambling around. And we've seen that increasingly as the season went on. He's been getting slipperier and slipperier. As we know, Joe Burrow is like an eel, coated in oil. I don't know what I can't come up with any more good slippery analogies, but he's slippery is the point. He's hard to bring down. And the Chargers found that out a lot in this game. The Chargers also got a lot of hits on Joe Burrow in this game. 14 quarterback hits against Joe Burrow taken. He was getting lit up and flattened on a lot of plays, but he hung in there throughout the entire game. That's one more hit than he took against the Baltimore Ravens. Ravens hit Joe Burrow 13 times. So the bye week is coming at a good time this week for Joe Burrow to recover from even more hits that he's been taking. But on this Bengals drive, number 30 running back Chase Brown, he gets horse collar tackled and face mask at the same time by Derwin James, number 3, I guess you call him a slot cornerback now for the Chargers. He was a safety, now he plays kind of inside. He's like a hybrid defensive player, whatever you want to call Derwin James. He's just a football player. As Jim Harbaugh referred to him, he's like Jim Harbaugh's favorite football player. He said like nobody loves football more than Derwin James, so whatever. But he got a penalty on this play, so that gave the Bengals an automatic first down. They had already been moving the ball because of that long pass to Jamar Chase. So the Bengals get the ball in good field position. They're first and goal inside the 5-yard line. Chase Brown gets a little bit of yardage on a short run on first down. Burrow, they have a couple more plays where they just let Burrow scramble around, try to find somebody in the end zone like he's done on a lot of his touchdowns this year. They'll call a play and they'll let guys like Jamar Chase, Andre Yosevich, Gesicki, Sample, Tanner Hudson, you can think of any number of guys who have caught touchdowns from Joe Burrow. He leads the league in interceptions. I think he's got 27 or 30 at this point, but didn't end up finding anybody in this drive. A couple of incomplete passes, and then third down, he takes a sack / gets called for intentional grounding. He's kind of scrambling around trying to find somebody, and the pass rush gets up on him before he can really get away. He's trying to throw it, but he ends up throwing it to Cordell Volson, which is illegal touching. There's all kinds of penalties, but basically, Bengals have to settle for a short field goal that puts the Bengals in the lead 3-0 with 6 minutes and 27 seconds left to go in the first quarter. Chargers get the ball on their second drive, and early in that drive, Trey Hendrickson and Cam Taylor-Britt split a sack on Justin Herbert. They take him down for about a 5-yard loss, but on the very next play, Justin Herbert, the quarterback for the Chargers, scrambles, runs across the open field. I don't know if he caught the Bengals in kind of man-to-man coverage where they weren't necessarily paying attention where he was going, but he picks up 20 yards and another first down. Mike Hilton got faked out of his jockstrap on this play. Herbert just put a juke move on him, left Mike Hilton just standing still, couldn't even get a hand on Herbert as he ran past. So Mike Hilton's normally pretty good in the run game, but he's better when he could come up on a run blitz and get a little bit ahead of his steam. Maybe not quite as good in the open field, but Justin Herbert's a great athlete, as he proved in this game many times. This is the first of many runs for Justin Herbert in this game. After this, the Chargers hit a deep out to Ladd McConkey. He catches this in front of safety Geno Stone. And as they're going out of bounds, Geno Stone, number 22, safety for the Bengals, he rolls up on top of Ladd McConkey, and you can see Ladd is grabbing his right shoulder. Looked like it could have been a collarbone or a separated shoulder. I didn't get an injury report on what happened, but he was obviously in a lot of pain. He was down. They took him into the blue medical tent, and I wasn't sure if it was going to be a serious injury, but somehow he was able to come back and play the rest of this game. But they even showed him later in the game, somebody hit him in the shoulder just by accident, and he winced and was like, oh man, don't hit me there. So obviously this was something that was bothering him for the rest of the game. And those are the kind of hits. I guess it's illegal, but it's a little bit dirty to kind of put Geno Stone, put it all his weight. I wouldn't say it was intentional that he did this, but you'd see guys get injured a lot of times in situations where guys come down with their full body weight on somebody and can mess your shoulders up pretty bad. So I think that was maybe one of the things that started off some pushing and shoving and fighting later on in this game, was plays like this where if one team feels like, hey, you're kind of intentionally trying to hurt one of our players, then, they eye for an eye, they start coming for you, try to take dirty hits on your players. It can get kind of ugly. So luckily there wasn't too much of that in this game. On this play, Cam Taylor-Britt was also flagged for defensive holding, but that penalty was declined because the catch from McConkey was more than the holding penalty would have been anyway. But there was a lot of focus on Cam Taylor-Britt in this game, more to come on that. But Chris Collinsworth, the analyst for NBC Sports, he points out at this point that Cam Taylor-Britt, the cornerback, number 29 for the Bengals, had given up 7 touchdowns to receivers, which was the most in the NFL coming into this game. And that was just some foreshadowing. So he had 7, ended up with more than that. So on the very next play, Justin Herbert throws a laser touchdown pass up the seam to his tight end, Will Dissly. Cam Taylor-Britt is supposed to be theoretically in coverage on this play, but he is too slow to get over, doesn't get a hand in to break up the pass. And credit to Justin Herbert because he did a good job with his eyes, not necessarily, showing where he was going to throw the ball until he cocked back to throw it. And it was a perfect pass and just like on a rope, on a line, one of these laser pinpoint perfect passes where the defense and Cam Taylor-Britt he was a little bit slow to react. So it was a deep seam route, but there was also Cam Taylor-Britt got the deep responsibilities. There was another guy, receiver for the Chargers, going out in the flat to kind of distract Cam Taylor-Britt just for a half a second to make him think, oh, maybe I should go over there and worry about this guy also. But he let this tight end, Disley, get behind him in coverage. He needed to be deeper so that he could make a play on the ball. Because he didn't get enough depth, he basically let the receiver get all the way behind him. Herbert threw it over him. And Justin Herbert has, like I said in the preview episode, if not the strongest, one of the strongest throwing arms in the NFL. And he's one of these guys that you think the guys are out of range. You're like, oh, there's no way he could make that throw. And then all of a sudden the ball's going right past you in for a touchdown. And so that put the Chargers, after the extra point, that put the Chargers up 7-3. They showed NBC cameras after the commercial break. They came back. They showed number 57 linebacker for the Bengals, Jermaine Pratt, was irate on the sidelines, yelling and screaming. Melissa Stark, the sideline reporter, said he got up in Cam Taylor-Britt's face and said, "Wake up," multiple times. And I'm sure there's probably some expletives thrown in there. We could see the spit was flying out of Jermaine Pratt's mouth. So he did not like this. He was, saying like he was sick of this stuff. And apparently afterwards we got some comments from defensive coordinator Lou Anarumo and some other people. Apparently the reason why Jermaine Pratt was so upset was because this is the play that they had practiced against all week in practice. They were like, we knew that this was coming. We had seen this on film so many times. We knew what to expect. We knew this is how it should, play out. And knowing all that and practicing all that, Cam Taylor-Britt was out of position, couldn't make the play. So that's why he was even more frustrated. But you got to give the other team credit. Like maybe they do run that play, but keep running it because it works. Obviously, Justin Herbert can make amazing throws. And it's a well-designed play because it fakes the defense out. So credit to the Chargers on that one. But Cam Taylor-Britt was in the bullseye of the NBC cameras and his teammates. They said Trey Hendrickson tried to come over and soothe things over. But I don't know if Trey Hendrickson is necessarily the one you want making the piece. And, yeah, just Cam Taylor-Britt, he got that couple steps out of position. And that was enough to have no chance. 3:34 left to go in the first quarter. Chargers only took 3 minutes to go the entire length of the field and score that touchdown to take the lead. And they would have the lead for until almost the end of the game when the Bengals came back to tie it. But the Bengals, when I'm thinking about it, that was when they had that 3-0, that was the only time they had the lead in this game. And the Chargers had the lead after that. But Bengals get the ball back for their third drive. T. Higgins makes a nice catch over the middle of the field and then drags like 3 or 4 defenders for another 20 yards. Typical T. Higgins catch where he's just too hard to tackle. He's just so strong and big. Guys can't take him down one-on-one. He's almost like a tight end playing wide receiver. After this, right tackle Amarius Mims, he gives up a sack to number 45 for the Chargers. Got to get this pronunciation correct. Tuli Tuipulotu. It's hard to say. Tuipulotu, whatever. Tuipulotu, he's not the biggest guy, but he's strong and he's quick. He's obviously at a size disadvantage when compared to Amarius Mims. But the thing, we've seen it from a couple times, Amarius Mims, he gave up the inside too quick. And if you're going to lose, you want to make the guy go around you to the outside. Take the farthest distance from point A to point B. If you give him the inside, that's the shortest distance. That's exactly what he wants. That gave him a free path. I don't know if maybe he expected some help from his right guard, Alex Kappa, or what the situation was, but kind of just opened the door up and let the Chargers defender walk right into Joe Burrow for a sack. That wasn't great. And then 3rd and 10, Tanner Hudson made a tough catch to pick up 9 yards, and Zach Taylor immediately goes for it. No hesitation. Kind of a weird sequence. It's 4th and 1. Bengals, they're getting down to the wire. They call timeout right before they were going to get a delay of game penalty. Then they come out to run the play, and right before they can snap the ball, Chargers call timeout. So we got back-to-back timeouts. Neither team can really decide what they want to do. And this is an interesting part in the game because the Chargers used their second timeout of the first quarter already because Chargers if I go back to the first play, basically, that Jermaine Burton pass where he went out of bounds and was dragging his feet with the pellets coming up, the Chargers actually challenged that and lost. They said they thought it was incomplete, and they lost the challenge. So they lost the timeout. They spent another timeout here. So that's 2 timeouts. Chargers are burning early in this first quarter. It didn't really end up mattering, but interesting use of the timeouts by Jim Harbaugh. Anyway, when they finally run this 4th and 1 play, Bengals get the first down, throwing it to T. Higgins. But as he's going down to the ground, he gets hit by Denzel Perryman, linebacker for the Chargers, gets hit in the back, and the ball kind of pops out onto the ground. One of the Chargers picks it up, runs it all the way back. What looks like a return for a defensive touchdown. The officials err on the side of just letting them play it out. But after review, it's obvious that T. Higgins' elbow is touching down, and the ball just kind of pops out while he's already down. So he's down by contact. Bengals keep the ball. But unfortunately for T, he took a helmet like right in the back. That didn't feel good, I'm sure. They took him into the sidelines, into the tent, and they showed one of the trainers rubbing some kind of a lotion on his back. And Chris Collinsworth said, I can tell you from experience that lotion does not work. And yeah, hopefully it was just like a bruise. I'm sure it's not going to feel good for the next couple days for T. Higgins. But yeah, if it's something like cracked ribs or something like that, the lotion isn't going to do anything. But luckily, T. Higgins was able to get back in there and play through it. He only missed a couple plays, not too much. But after this, when the Chargers were running him back and celebrating this defensive touchdown, Zach Taylor, they showed him on the sidelines. He was so upset. This is about as upset and animated as Zach Taylor will ever get. He took his hat off, and you could see his hair. So imagine, because if you've ever seen Zach Taylor, like 99% of the time, he's got his Bengals baseball hat on. He never takes it off, and it seems like you very rarely see his whole face because most of the time it seems like he's hiding underneath the bill of his baseball hat. And when they lose the game, he pulls the hat down real far so you can't see his eyes. And I guess a lot of coaches do that. A lot of coaches wear baseball hats, but Zach Taylor especially always has his hat on. So I was shocked and appalled to see Zach Taylor bearing his hair on national TV, but he promptly put his baseball hat back onto the top of his head while he was talking to the official and put his headset back on. But he was just so upset that they would call this a fumble, and he was, very excited and agitated about this. But he can go back to calling the plays. This is the end of the first quarter. Chargers lead this one 7-3, and the Bengals continue to drive going into the second quarter. In the second quarter, Bengals get a defensive pass interference penalty in their favor against number 7 for the Chargers, Christian Fulton. He's going against Trenton Irwin, thinks he's making a play, but he's coming out over the back, gets called for the penalty. That gives a first down for the Bengals. Bengals eventually get to 3rd and 2 from the Chargers' 9-yard line. Joe Burrow throws a pass to the left and into the end zone for rookie number 81, Jermaine Burton, who's running, I don't even know what kind of a route this is. He's running like a kind of a deep in, And at the last second, he puts one hand up to reach out and not able to bring in the ball, not able to catch it, just kind of falls to the ground. It looked like maybe he wasn't expecting it or he didn't see it until the last second, because obviously you want to go up and catch it with two hands. I don't know why the defender wasn't like grabbing his other hand and preventing him from. It was a little bit outside of his body, maybe not exactly on the same page with Joe Burrow in terms of where he was going to be, where Joe Burrow expected him to be. Kind of a weird play. Again, why are they going to Jermaine Burton in these type of clutch situations when he hasn't proved that he's been able to make a lot of plays when he's been given a chance? But the Chargers defense is covering Jamar Chase, and one of the things that was interesting in this game, including on this play, was the Bengals offense was lining up Jamar Chase in the backfield, where he would be on one side of Joe Burrow. Chase Brown, the running back, would be on the opposite side, left and right. And then Jamar Chase might go in motion and go out on a pattern, or he might come out of the backfield and go out for a screen or something like that. But it was interesting they were moving Jamar Chase around. I don't know if it necessarily worked effectively, but it was at least something different. They're trying something to move Jamar, give him maybe better opportunity, better matches with defenders out in the open field. But they didn't have a lot of success with that in this game. But like I said, maybe just trying something different. But they had T. Higgins back. He was occupying one of the defenders. So since they got that incomplete pass and 4th and 2 from the 9, they decide to settle for the field goal instead of trying to get the lead and go for a touchdown. Just a strange sequence of plays and play calls, and they get it back to 6-7. They're down by 1 point with about 13 minutes left to go in the second quarter. I don't know if they ended up losing by more than that, but as Joe Burrow said before this game, anytime he's got to feel like, since they have to put up, it seems like 40 points to win a game these days, anytime they don't score a touchdown on a drive, it's going to feel like they weren't successful. It's going to feel almost like a failure. So they've had a couple field goals, but Joe Burrow wants those touchdowns. And they got so close, came up a little bit short. They still got points. Points is better than nothing. They had, against the Ravens, they had a couple of drives where they got stopped on 4th down instead of kicking long field goals. And some people were wondering, was that a lack of confidence in Evan McPherson? Zach Taylor says no way. He's got total confidence in Evan McPherson that just with the flow of the game, they wanted to go for it on 4th down there. Who knows? But kind of see that play out later in this game. But anyway, Bengals, they put some points up on the board, kick it off to the Chargers. Chargers respond with a 4-play touchdown drive that consisted of 3 passes and 1 run. Justin Herbert continues to throw lasers all over the field. Cincinnati Bengals defense is just unable to get anywhere close to some of these passes to make any plays on the ball. They're not getting a pass rush up front, but they really don't have any chance to get there in time. He's getting it out quick, accurate, on time, over Joseph Osai, the linebacker, in front of the corner, finding the hole in that cover 2 zone, just where no defenders are able to get and his receivers are. And like I said, there's just that frozen rope, almost no air on the ball. It seems like the ball doesn't get more than 10 or 15 feet above the ground, but travels like 30 yards down the field. And Herbert is just throwing with extreme confidence. And, you expect to see like a smoke trail or a vapor trail coming off the back of some of these balls, how hard he's throwing them. And good job by his receivers to catch some of these passes that are coming out hot. And I saw in some of the Chargers, I guess I mentioned in the pregame or the preview episode, I think, Jim Harbaugh, he's got the gloves and the cleats on in pregame. He's out there catching passes from Justin Herbert, and he's having trouble catching some of these passes. They're coming out so hot. So Herbert was slinging it early in this game. The touchdown pass comes with 11 minutes to go left in the second quarter. The Chargers run a play action to the right, and it's basic route concept the Chargers are running here. They basically cross the two outside receivers. They have one receiver on the left, one receiver lined up wide to the right, third receiver in the inside who just kind of runs a route short over the middle of the field. The two widest receivers cross over the middle of the field. Guy on the left goes to the right, guy on the right goes to the left. They cross each other about 10 to 15 yards down the middle of the field. The Bengals, if you go back and watch like the GPS tracking dots, everybody is in zone coverage except for one person. So everybody on the Bengals defense is playing zone coverage, meaning they are occupying a certain area on the field. If anybody comes into their zone, they're going to be responsible for guarding that player. But it's like in any other sport, like in basketball. If you're playing, zone defense on basketball, you have a particular area of the court you're guarding. If somebody comes in there, you try to defend them, and vice versa. Similarly, if you got man-to-man coverage, you're playing man-to-man defense, you go one-on-one with a particular guy. No matter where they go on the field, you stick with them. Everybody on the Bengals defense is playing zone except Cam Taylor-Britt. For some reason, Cam Taylor-Britt is guarding the guy on the left, and he follows him as he's going across the field to the right. But Cam Taylor-Britt exits his zone that he's supposed to be covering and follows the first guy, doesn't switch off. He's supposed to switch. As the two receivers cross, they're supposed to basically make a seamless handoff from one side to the other. Okay, we see these guys are crossing. I'll take this guy who's coming into my zone. You take that guy who's going into your zone, and we'll just switch defensive responsibilities. For whatever reason, part of it was because, again, Justin Herbert and the play design, he was rolling to his right, so that kind of naturally took Cam Taylor-Britt and his eyes following this receiver this way, thinking, probably, if he throws it to this guy, I might have an opportunity to make an interception, because Cam Taylor-Britt's always looking for interceptions, diving, Pro Bowl worthy big plays. And again, if this were like high school or college and the quarterbacks weren't that good and they couldn't throw as good as some of these guys in the NFL, this defense would be okay. But they're playing against Justin Herbert, who might have the best throwing arm in the NFL, and definitely tonight he was throwing it anywhere he wanted to. So unfortunately for Cam Taylor-Britt and the Bengals defense, he saw that Cam Taylor-Britt was out of his zone. Justin Herbert makes an amazing throw across the field, across his body, another laser like 30 yards across the field, where the defender Quentin Johnston is all by himself, wide open. He gets behind the linebacker Logan Wilson. Geno Stone, the safety, doesn't have any time to come over. Cam Taylor-Britt is out in the middle of nowhere, looking around, confused. Touchdown. Quentin Johnston does a backflip in the end zone. So, disappointment for the Bengals defense. Another quick, demoralizing drive. It cuts right through this Bengals defense, puts the Chargers up on the top 14-6. And Bengals at this point, they're still totally in it. Only an 8-point game, but it's time to respond. Especially because this was billed as, they always sell these games as battle of the two star quarterbacks. Especially in this case, got young, up and coming, tall, handsome quarterback Joe Burrow versus Justin Herbert. They're kind of like different coast versions of each other. Like Joe Burrow is very Midwest, maybe not East Coast, but he's more Midwest, middle of America type. And Justin Herbert is very West Coast, laid back, chillax, bro. He's from like Oregon or wherever he's from. He's from Oregon, I think. But yeah, very just like kind of that surfer vibes, kind of chill vibes, man. That's Justin Herbert. So they represent their teams and their regions respectively very well. So Justin Herbert showing off on prime time. He's throwing balls all over the place. So I'm sure Joe Burrow wants to respond. He's the number one overall pick. Let's show him, okay, that's what Justin Herbert's got. Okay, let's go out there and show him what I can do. Unfortunately, first play of that next drive, Joe Burrow has a incomplete, wobbly pass to tight end Mike Gesicki, who's wide open, breaking across the middle of the field. And they go back, and Chris Collinsworth is trying to defend his boy Joe Burrow, because Chris Collinsworth used to play for the Bengals. And he's like, whoa, I mean, maybe Joe Burrow's arm got hit there, or maybe the ball got deflected or something. But they show it on replay, and no, the ball just kind of came out of Joe's hand weird, and it was just a misfire, just a bad pass. Nobody hit him. He didn't really get any pressure in his face or anything like that. Just kind of a weird, inaccurate duck of a pass. And then so that was when NBC cued the Joe Burrow rehab from injury montage, where they show him warming up in pre-games, and he's flexing his wrist, moving his wrist around, and they talked about how he had surgery on that wrist that kept him out of the second half of last season. And they talked about how he was wearing a glove at certain points. He's talked about how he did that to keep the moisture and perspiration going on his fingers on that right hand, but he never used to do that. He says he did. I don't know if he did or didn't, but he's doing all these things to keep that hand and that wrist ready to go. So anytime he throws a bad pass, basically the media is saying, well, it's probably because of that wrist. I don't know if it is, but having wrist surgery definitely didn't help him in any of these passes. I wouldn't think. It's not like a rookie of the year type situation. But later in this drive, Andre Yosibash, number 80, receiver out of Princeton, makes a nice catch in traffic for about 5 yards. And Mike Tirico, around this time, is also reminding us that the stadium is not an indoor dome stadium. Even though it's covered, it's got a roof over the field. The air from outside can still come in and blow through. So you can get a little bit of a breeze. And the temperature is about 65 degrees at this point in the evening. So a little bit cool, but not that cold. They were saying how Joe Burrow was wearing the glove, but not like it was that cold where he needed to wear a glove. But he takes the glove off when he's actually playing in the game. He just wears it when he's on the sideline to keep his hand warm, maybe just keep the blood flowing through there, whatever Joe Burrow needs to feel comfortable and be his best. Don't worry about that, Mike Tirico. But on this drive, Joe Burrow gets sacked again by Tuilaitopo or whatever it was, the two T's. He does like the forearms making a T sign twice, so his initials, TT. He gets the sack on Joe Burrow, number 45 for the Chargers. It's a tackle twist up front. Ted Karras and the guards aren't able to pick up the stunt. Joe Burrow doesn't really have anywhere to go, doesn't have a good way to escape, so he takes the sack, but he does a good job of not fumbling, at least. Some of these quarterbacks, you see them, they get sacked and the ball comes out. Joe Burrow does a good job keeping his hands on it. Bengals punt the ball away to the Chargers, and Ryan Rico, the rookie punter, he's been doing a good job. This is one of his not as good punts. It only goes 32 yards. It hits and rolls backwards for about 10 yards. So it was a short punt to begin with. Then it kicks backwards. Chargers get the ball in good field position with 9.5 minutes left to go in the second quarter, and Chargers are up 14-6. At this point, Chargers have the ball, and Bengals cornerback number 29, Cam Taylor-Britt, is on the sidelines. He has been benched again for the second time this season. If we think back against the Carolina Panthers, he got benched after it seemed like Andy Dalton was going after him almost every drive, completing a long pass on Cam Taylor-Britt. They took him out of the game in that one, and they put in, they put in DJ Turner, because at that point they still had Dax Hill. So Cam Taylor-Britt got benched in the previous game for DJ Turner. Now Dax Hill is out with an ACL for the rest of the season. DJ Turner is already playing in the game. They benched Cam Taylor-Britt for a 6th-round rookie, Josh Newton, number 28. Maybe he was a 5th-round rookie, but not like a high-round pick. And Cam Taylor-Britt was the guy that Zach Taylor wanted so bad that they traded up in the second round to draft him out of Nebraska. And he has not why did we give up a draft pick for Cam Taylor-Britt and a second-round pick at that? And yeah, so he's on the sidelines, and it wasn't like he was injured, because they showed him he had his helmet and pads still on, and he was talking to his teammates and wasn't getting like checked out by the doctor or anything. So he was obviously completely healthy, but they thought it would be better if he was not on the field anymore. And after giving up his second touchdown of the night, and when we talked about how he's playing man-to-man coverage and everybody else on the defense is playing zone, I am totally not surprised. Lou Anarumo said, hey, this guy's out here. I call out one defense, and he's not even playing the defense that I called. Get him out. Get him out for the rest of the game. Get somebody in there who's going to play the defense that I call, at least, and make some plays and not give up 2 touchdowns in one half. And like I said, he came into the game already having given up 7 touchdowns in the first 10 weeks. Now he's got 9 touchdowns through 11 weeks. So we'll see what happens going forward, but we'll get to that, I guess. We'll definitely see. But anyway, not a good evening, not a good start for Cam Taylor-Britt in this evening. Josh Newton comes in, 2nd and 5. Justin Herbert gets off another long run for 31 yards. Again, it seems like a situation where they catch the Bengals in man coverage. Everybody just got their back turned. They're covering their receivers down the field. That gives Justin Herbert free pass to break out. Nobody's able to run him down. I think this may have been Jordan Battle on the field at this time. So they were substituting some guys in at this point, like Geno Stone and Von Bell. You know, not the fastest guys in the world. Not that Jordan Battle is necessarily that fast either, but they were getting some different guys in. They were getting on the defensive line, they were subbing in guys like J. Tufele, Chris Jenkins, McKinley Jackson. Some of the backups were getting in there. And no surprise, the Chargers offense was continuing to drive the ball down the field on the Bengals. They couldn't really get too much resistance. There was one play, especially Sam Hubbard and B.J. Hill just got completely steamrolled out of the way on 1st and 10. Gus Edwards picked up 9 yards where he just followed his offensive line. They were just bulldozing the Bengals out of the way. He didn't have to break any tackles. The running back for the Chargers didn't have to really do anything, put any moves on anybody. He just followed the rest of his team for 9 yards before they could even stop him. Crazy. And then Mike Tirico and Chris Collinsworth, the announcers, have a little bit of a back and forth here where Mike Tirico will say something critical about the Bengals, and then Chris Collinsworth will come back and kind of defend the Bengals, defend Joe Burrow. And I think it's one of these situations. He's talked about this in interviews he's done with other people. Chris Collinsworth, he seems to get a lot of criticism and hate from Bengals fans who have this weird paranoia that if he says anything somewhat critical of the team, oh, he's against the team. He's against the Bengals, which doesn't make any sense because he's a former Cincinnati Bengal player. Why would he be against his own team? But some people, they only listen to the Bengals team radio station. So obviously those guys only say positive things about the team. If anything negative happens to the Bengals, they either don't say anything or they're like, oh, I don't know, unlucky on that one. They never say anything critical or objective about what's actually going on in the football game. So some people don't like hearing that. They don't like honesty. And you hear the same thing out of Kirk Herbstreit. For some reason, Ohio State fans accuse Kirk Herbstreit of being biased against Ohio State, even though Kirk Herbstreit played quarterback at Ohio State. That doesn't make any sense. Why would he be biased against the school that he went to and played at? But again, some people, they only want to listen to Ohio State media, Ohio State radio station and whatever. And on those channels, they're never going to say anything negative about Ohio State. So same kind of concept here. Chris Collinsworth is almost going overboard at this point in defending the Bengals. And it seems like he's trying to make a point of saying, see, Bengals fans, I'm sticking up for the team. You can't blame me and say I'm biased against the team. So good job, Chris Collinsworth. He's also pointing out that Sheldon Rankins is out sick, so they're substituted in these guys like Tufele, Jenkins, Jordan Battle, Josh Newton, DJ Ivey, number 38, second-year player, is getting there on some coverage situations. He says they're not the normal starters for the Bengals defense, and sometimes that can make a difference. I'm just going to say it. At this point, B.J. Hill gets called for a very weak roughing the passer penalty where he takes a couple steps and pushes Justin Herbert to the ground. Not anything super violent, but I suppose by the letter of the rules, the ball had already been thrown, and so you can't hit the quarterback at all. So forcible contact or whatever, I don't know, but penalty gives the Chargers a first down. Bengals get a couple of stops to prevent the Chargers from scoring a touchdown, but at this point, 14-6, Jim Harbaugh is going for it. He's being aggressive. He's going for the kill shot, taking a risk. And they line up to go for it on 4th and goal from the 1-yard line. Chargers call their last timeout. Justin Herbert comes up to the line of scrimmage. Then he looks over to the sidelines. He, does the Knicks motion on his neck like, no, kill this. So they say, kill it, call timeout. Everybody, let's regroup, go back to the sidelines, come up with something else. So come back from touchdown. They come back from timeout, and Justin Herbert, 4th and 1, gives it to J.K. Dobbins, who gets a lot of power blocking up front from a fullback, and he's able to dive up and over for the touchdown, put the Chargers on top 21-6. And at this point, Chargers have scored 3 touchdowns to the Bengals, 2 field goals. Chargers admittedly did have it closer to that goal line, 4th and 1, when they went for it for the touchdown. Bengals had a little bit farther to go when they went for their field goals. But as we talked about before, got to get those touchdowns, not field goals. Bengals get the ball back with a little over 4 minutes left to go in the first half. Jamar Chase is lined up in the backfield again next to Chase Brown, but they tried to set up a screen for Jamar Chase out of backfield. He's not able to break a tackle, get away from the linebacker, Denzel Perryman. Good job by the Chargers sniffing that out. 3rd and 3, Joe Burrow gets sacked again. Cordell Volson, number 67, left guard for the Bengals. He gives up pressure quickly. Burrow has nowhere to go. This is the 3rd sack on Burrow. They've got a punt. It's a good punt and a good coverage tackle by Bengals gunner number 26, Tyson Anderson, picking up where he left off after suffering an ACL injury last season. I think it was in the Chiefs game. Tyson Anderson tore his ACL, maybe 49ers. I can't remember. Actually, it was the 49ers game. But Tyson Anderson continues to make good tackles on these punts, and he's a good combination with Ryan Rico. I wouldn't be surprised if Tyson Anderson gets elected to a Pro Bowl the season he's having. If he continues to have this many tackles on punt coverage and not allowing return men to get off any long returns, he's getting down there and getting tackles before they can even get 5 yards. So I don't watch every punt out there, but he's the best in the NFL I've seen so far. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets maybe even all pro. We'll see. But cameras at this point are looking at Cam Taylor-Britt for the second series. Tirico is mentioning him. He's getting a lot of camera time being on the bench, and he's talking to his teammates again. Seems to be in okay spirits, so doesn't have a concussion or anything like that, and he doesn't look like he's coming back into the game anytime soon. Justin Herbert, quarterback for the Chargers, has another long run. I think Justin Herbert had 58 yards. He was the leading rusher for the Chargers. He's got his 3rd long run of this first half, and they cut to Joe Burrow after Herbert picks up this first down, and Joe Burrow is sitting on the bench by himself, as he typically is, looking forlorn, or you don't know. Everybody always tries to ascribe certain emotions to Joe Burrow, but really Joe Burrow is just like a football playing robot. So I wouldn't really assume he's feeling any emotions at all. He's probably just sitting there in a low power state, ready for his opportunity to go out and throw more touchdowns. But Trey Hendrickson, number 91 for the Bengals, he gets called for a horse collar tackle on Justin Herbert, where he's coming around the edge and he gets his hand on Justin Herbert's back and does get inside of his nameplate area and slings him down from behind. But as Chris Collinsworth points out, because the quarterback is still inside the pocket, technically there should not be a horse collar at all. Like if you're inside the pocket, it should be completely legal. But the referees call this penalty, and Trey Hendrickson apparently is aware of this rule because he's taken off his helmet, going absolutely crazy. And just like Zach Taylor taking off his hat, Trey Hendrickson's taking off his hat. It's his helmet in this case. But he's like upset, and they show him later coming off the sideline. Zach Taylor was trying to calm Trey Hendrickson down. Trey Hendrickson didn't want to hear anything from Zach Taylor. He was like, "Get out of my face." He like brushed his hand out of the way. Later, Trey Hendrickson, said all the right things about, "Oh, I've got a ton of respect for Zach. I love him. But, it's in the middle of the game. Everybody's got an edge to them out there. I've got a ton of respect for Zach, blah, blah, blah." Just try to downplay it. Like, no, I wasn't disrespecting Zach in that moment. I was just, he was basically telling him, "Get the F out of my face, Zach Taylor." So that's just one example of many throughout this game where people are starting to question the serenity and the togetherness, whether this Bengals locker room, this team really is unified and supporting their head coach as they really do. Has he lost the locker room? We shall see, as I said. And losing games doesn't help rally the locker room around you. But Trey Hendrickson, he's just an emotional guy. It's still halftime, or not even halftime yet. So at this point, Justin Herbert hits another laser up the seam to tight end Will Dissly. Another first down. Gets the Chargers within the 20-yard line. They're deep into the Bengals red zone. They spike it because they're out of timeouts. Clock is running at this point, so they spike it on first down, and they've got an opportunity to score another touchdown to go up 28-6. They try a couple of shots into the end zone. Rookie cornerback number 28 for the Bengals, Josh Newton, gets called for defensive pass interference, where he's basically riding and pushing the receiver out of the back of the end zone. And they call defensive pass interference, but time has run off the clock, and they don't have enough time. The Chargers don't have enough time to try another shot in the end zone. They have to settle for a field goal that makes it 24-6. And that was actually a good penalty in that situation by Josh Newton, because the most important thing was the time. They were low on time, and they were already close to the end zone. Yeah, they got it at the 1-yard line, but there was only like 3 seconds left. So instead of taking the risk of gambling and maybe they won't get any points, Chargers had to get the field goal instead of getting the touchdown. So that worked out in the Bengals' favor, kept it to an 18, only, quote unquote, only an 18-point lead for the Chargers at halftime. And at this point at halftime, this is where a lot of Bengals fans probably turned off the game, went to sleep, did whatever they had to do, kicked the dog or whatever. But it's 24-6. Chargers have not given up more than 20 points to any opponents yet so far in the season. So you're thinking, man, Bengals are going to have to do a lot more just to make it to 20 points. And even if they make it to 20, Chargers already have scored 24. So it's not looking good. If you look on like the ESPN win probability metrics at this point in the game at halftime, Chargers had a 94.6% chance of winning the game. Actually got a little bit higher than that later in the third quarter. But yeah, everything was looking like it was going in the Chargers' favor at this point. After that second Bengals field goal, Chargers had scored 17 unanswered points going into halftime. So not good, and also not good based on the fact that the Chargers were going to get the ball coming out of halftime as well. So Chargers scored on their last drive, scored a field goal, but they still scored on their last drive of the first half, and they get the ball coming out of halftime as well. So not setting up for the Bengals. But Bengals come out, and they kind of, NBC is making fun of the Bengals players on defense. They're clapping, showing some enthusiasm, trying to be positive on the sidelines, and trying to encourage each other to make this comeback. Chris Collinsworth at this point is saying, yeah, the clapping is great, but it would be better if they could get a sack at some point in this game. So cornerback Josh Newton, number 28, he's in there for Cam Taylor-Britt still after halftime. And he breaks up a pass deep on the right sideline where he got in good position against the receiver, did a good job of looking back, finding the ball in the air, swatting the ball away before the receiver could make a catch. Great play by Josh Newton, and they were saying that's what they want to see more of, and that's why they got these rookies in the game. Maybe he can have some speed and playmaking ability. Collinsworth was talking about how they want to get speed and younger players on the field, I guess younger and speedier than Cam Taylor-Britt, who I thought was supposed to be young and pretty fast himself, but apparently they want to get even younger and even faster. But he wasn't getting it done. Whatever the reason, Cam Taylor-Britt was not getting it done in this game. Josh Newton, he's making plays so far. And later, they forced a punt. Bengals get the ball back. Jamar Chase drops the slant route from Joe Burrow. Kind of a weird, easy catch for Jamar Chase. He has it right in his hands. Just dropped it. 3rd and 10. Joe Burrow throws deep left to Mike Gesicki, but he ended up falling down on the route, or a little bit of a misfire from Joe Burrow. I'm not sure if he got pressure in his face, but falls incomplete. Bengals have to punt, and at this point, they showed Joe Burrow walking off the field very slowly and looking down at the ground. And at this point, Mike Tirico, the play-by-play guy, says, a dejected Burrow slowly walks off the field. And again, tried to infuse Joe Burrow with emotion, saying he's dejected and looking down. If you look at the replay, it probably had more to do with the fact that he just got body slammed into the ground by 2 defensive linemen while he was trying to throw the ball. And right after he released the ball, he got one guy hit him in the back, one guy hit him high. It was like a high-low, got driven into the ground. And he was probably walking off slowly because he was trying to figure out, have I broken anything? Am I going to be suffering any internal bleeding in the next 5 minutes? Who am I? Where am I? I think it had less to do with feeling dejected and more with feeling physical pain in his body at that moment. So yeah, he's, like I said, he doesn't have any emotions. He's a robot, but sometimes robot has some issues with the system, but he was able to, I think it was mostly just not showing the opponents that you're feeling any pain. He doesn't want to show pain or weakness or that the opponents made him hurt or, hurt him in any way. So you just got to get up, and if he walks off slow, so be it. But don't show any weakness to the other team. So he got off the field and probably was not having a good time on the sidelines. But anyway, Chargers get the ball back, and they get it to 3rd down. It's another good pass breakup down the left sidelines by DJ Turner. Breaks it up, pass to Quentin Johnson. So good play by both the Bengals cornerbacks in this 3rd quarter, breaking up passes from Justin Herbert. They're trying to test these young guys, but they're making plays and responding in the right way. Chargers again have to settle for a field goal for this one. That makes it 27-6 Chargers with 10.5 minutes left to go in the 3rd quarter. At this point, Chargers have scored 20 points unanswered on the Bengals, and things are not looking good. At this point, I think it's about 97 or 98% probability win rate for the Chargers at this point in the game. But to their credit, Bengals didn't give up. Now, they showed a graphic on NBC that after the 2 field goals for the Bengals, since that point, they had 3 offensive drives, ran 9 plays, gained a total of 3 yards, 9 punts. So they had a few sacks in there on 3rd down that took the yards away, but obviously not getting much done offensively at this middle point in the game. 2nd and 6, Joe Burrow takes a deep shot to Jermaine Burton, but he's not able to make a play on the ball. He's maybe a little bit of an overthrow, but it seems like every time Joe Burrow is thrown at Jermaine Burton is overthrown. And I don't think Joe Burrow is missing that often. He might miss a little bit, but I think it's partly Jermaine Burton's just not doing a great job of tracking the ball in the air, finding it, and getting that burst to the ball. So not a lot of efficiency throwing the ball at Jermaine Burton tonight. Chase Brown, the running back, however, responds and breaks off a long run of 27, his longest run of the night. Good job of breaking free in the open field. Couldn't quite break the tackle, but that's much better. I think his longest before this is probably 5 or 6 yards. Bengals get the ball around like the 15-yard line, and they still have the opportunity to get a first down, but they try a pass into the back of the end zone to T. Higgins. Looks like he's got an opportunity. He's got it in his hands, but the defender does a good job of breaking it up. He's not able to come down with the pass for the touchdown. Next play, Chase Brown takes a hit on a swing pass out to the left, but he's able to hold on to the ball, but he comes up short of the end zone. Fourth down. At this point, Bengals, they're down 27-6. They're down by 3 scores, 21 points. So fourth down and goal. Bengals at this point, they've got to go for it instead of settling for another field goal. They find Jamar Chase for the touchdown, where I think he was double covered, and they had 2 guys on him, but it didn't really matter. Joe Burrow bought enough time, found him, and scored the touchdown. And then there's an unusual, let's call it a unique touchdown celebration from Jamar Chase, where he goes up to the cameraman on Sunday Night Football, takes a knee with the ball, lays the ball down on the ground, and then Jamar Chase pulls a towel out from the back of his pants and lifts the end of the ball upwards and wipes from bottom up like he's wiping the ball's ass, like he's changing the ball's diaper or something like that. And then he just kind of flips the ball at the camera and walks away. I don't think I've ever seen that touchdown celebration. I don't know if he's going to get a fine or what they would necessarily call that, if it would be like inappropriate. Like, can you wipe the ball with your towel like that? Like it's a butt? I don't know. It was weird. Probably not a touchdown celebration that it's going to catch on everywhere, but unique nonetheless. Also on this play, nobody really noticed this, probably except for me because I went back and watched the replay, but there was a guy who was down. It looked like maybe he was injured at the goal line. He was not getting up for the Chargers defense. It was like, oh man, what happened? That guy just got kicked in the nuts. He was running over, and one of the guys trying to make a tackle on Jamar Chase was like swinging his legs around. Just happened to catch this guy right at the wrong angle for him, hit him right in that sensitive area, and he was down for the count. Mike Tirico, classy guy. He didn't say anything about it. He was just like, oh, he's down, and we'll be back after this commercial. So they didn't mention anything, but that guy was fine. But just kind of funny. These guys, they don't wear cups or any kind of athletic protection down there, which I guess they want to make themselves faster. They don't want anything impeding their ability to run. But you see that more often than you would think. Guys who go down injured, what happened? Oh, he just got hit in the nuts. So after this, we see now it's Bengals 13, Chargers 27, with 5.5 minutes left to go in the third quarter. Bengals are down by 14 with about 20 minutes left, 1/3 of the game left to go. Again, number 20, DJ Turner, cornerback for Bengals, gets a nice pass breakup on first down versus an incomplete pass. Jay Tufele, number 97 for the Bengals, gets his hand in front of another Justin Herbert pass that falls incomplete. And then on third down, Herbert's trying to scramble around, and he gets sacked by Joseph Osai. Logan Wilson is also in the area, and so they force another punt from the Chargers. And this is a bad punt by the Chargers. It goes out of bounds around the 50-yard line. So that sets the Bengals up with great field position. So finally, the tide is starting to turn in the Bengals' favor. They're down by 2 scores, and they get the ball around midfield. Bengals take over, and they run a few plays. They get to 4th and 2 late in this third quarter, and this is decision time. What are they going to do? I think they might have called a timeout at this point to make their decision about what play they wanted to run. They came out and they took a chance, and they hit a deep pass to T. Higgins. Everybody was up close to the line of scrimmage. T kind of ran an out and up, and he was wide open. Joe Burrow did not overthrow T on this one. He caught it. He could walk into the end zone for the touchdown. All of a sudden, that takes it to Bengals 20, Chargers 27, with 3 minutes left to go in the third quarter. Now all of a sudden, the Bengals have a little life. There's plenty of time left, and they're only down by 7. And Mike Tirico and Chris Collinsworth had just been talking about how they're trying to sell the game to the audience like it wasn't actually that competitive, maybe not that exciting. And, it was a 21-point game, so not that competitive for a moment there. But then all of a sudden, Bengals are back in this thing. They don't have to sell you on anything. If you're a Bengals fan, if you're still awake, you were like me, and you're definitely into the game at this point. Chargers get the ball back. They throw deep on DJ Turner again. He makes a great recovery to get his hand in the way, break up the pass, good pass breakup. But unfortunately, at the end of this play, after DJ Turner breaks up the ball, he's got to dive as he's breaking it up. And as he comes down, he hits his right shoulder very hard on the turf, and immediately he just lays on his back, flat on his back, kind of grabs up to his right shoulder with his left hand. He doesn't move his right hand at all, and he's down. They've got to bring out the medical trainers and get him off the field. They go to commercial break. They said after commercial that he went immediately to the locker room for evaluation. It came out later that he suffered a broken collarbone, broken clavicle in this, and just seeing the way that he came down, it's not a surprise. He came down like full force, jumped basically as high as he could, running full speed, and came down right on his collarbone. So unfortunate. He's probably going to miss the rest of the season. Zach Taylor, after the game, I'm getting ahead of myself, but Zach Taylor after the game was like, well, he's most likely going to miss the rest of the season, but we'll have to see. I guess kind of alluding to the fact that in theory, if the Bengals made it to the playoffs and they continued for like another, 8 or 9 weeks, conceivably he could come back from a collarbone injury. But I got news for you, Zach Taylor. You're not going to be making the playoffs, so we don't need to worry about DJ Turner coming back this year. He's not going to be needed because you guys aren't going to be playing any games by the time his collarbone is healed. And it's just so weird when you talk about somebody fracturing some bone in their body and then they're just like, oh yeah, he might be back in a couple weeks. Like, what? That's the last thing that you should be thinking. If you just fractured a bone in your body, don't go out there and start doing more of the thing that could refracture that. But they don't care. They're just paying these players to go out there and put their bodies on the line. So who cares if you can't walk or you're fracturing your bones? All good, right? No. So Chargers, they are able to keep their drive going. J.K. Dobbins, looks like the Bengals have him wrangled in the backfield for a loss. All of a sudden, he breaks out of the tackle of number 90, Chris Jenkins, and breaks it off for another first down. This is the last play of the third quarter. Chargers go into the fourth quarter, maintaining that 7-point lead in the ball, 27-20. Coming out early in the fourth quarter, Chargers still have the ball. Justin Herbert tries to scramble like he's been doing all night, but this time, as he goes to run over Mike Hilton, he gets caught up and tangled up with Hilton and Logan Wilson. Right before he hits the ground, Logan Wilson's knee kind of pokes at the ball. Ball comes out. Geno Stone, I think, is the one who came over and recovered the fumble and gets knocked out of bounds. Ball goes back to the Bengals offense. So that's another thing that's going in the Bengals' favor. They've got 2 scores. Now they forced a turnover against the Chargers. Chargers all of a sudden are self-destructing. If you're a Chargers fan, it's what they refer to as charging, which I cringe even saying that term because as a Bengals fan, I'm sure it must be like when people say things like, oh, the Bungles, right? Like if you're a Bengals fan, you kind of cringe when you hear people say the Bungles are bungling. Same thing with the Chargers are charging. Like it's such a meaningless cliche that doesn't have any real substance behind it. Like what does charging mean besides they didn't win the game? So whatever that stupid phrase means, but they were letting the Bengals come back into the game by making bad plays, whatever. So Bengals get the ball back, and this is where Joe Burrow all of a sudden turns into like playoff mode. Joe Burrow activate. He completes 2 amazing passes where he should have been sacked 100% both times, but he's able to slip away, twist and spin and twirl and just contort his body away from the defenders, slip out of their grasp, and throw the ball to Chase Brown for a first down. Twice, Chase Brown's making great catches on the run, getting open, getting first downs. So amazing job by the Bengals offense. Then Bengals catch the Chargers defense trying to do a substitution. They've got 12 people on defense, so Bengals have a free play, basically. And then at this point, you can start to hear there's some faint Who Dey chants starting to break out in the crowd, because the Chargers are kind of the second-class franchise of the NFL in Los Angeles. The Rams are kind of the first franchise, but the Chargers have moved there from San Diego. They don't have a huge fan base, so they've talked about how a lot of the time the visiting team will have more fans there, especially when you play when they play teams like the 49ers and other teams on the West Coast who have a big fan base. Sometimes the visiting team will make it sound like a home game instead of the Chargers. But on the Bengals drive in this fourth quarter, Joe Burrow finds Ja'Marr Chase. This is actually where he was double covered. Scrambling around, Joe Burrow kind of gives him the finger or the thumb. Hey, go back to this way. But even though Ja'Marr Chase is double covered, as he always says, he's always open, so it doesn't matter. Just throw him the ball. He catches it, scores a touchdown. This time he's showing off the diamond grill in the end zone, doing a little dance. So now it's a tie game, 27-27. This is the biggest second half comeback in the NFL this season. And if the Bengals won this game, it would have been the tied for the biggest comeback in Bengals franchise history, 21 points. They had done it 2 times previously where they came back and won the game. So this would have been the third time. When the Chargers get the ball back, Bengals defense forces some incompletions, and they get off the field, force another punt, and DJ Turner is out. So at this point, Cam Taylor-Britt is back in. So he had previously been benched, but now that DJ Turner, number 20, is out with that collarbone injury, it's time for Cam Taylor-Britt to get back in there. Bengals get the ball back, and Burrow tries to throw it deep. And I'm not sure what he was thinking about in this play. He throws it deep. It's an underthrown pass to Andre Iosivas into double coverage. Comes up way short, and the Chargers are able to intercept the pass on the way down. But Bengals are bailed out by the fact that Joe Burrow got absolutely annihilated after this roughing the passer penalty, where the guy who hit Joe Burrow not only hit him in the helmet, but then came down with all of his 300 plus pounds weight on top of Joe Burrow, just kind of tried to squish him like a bug. And Joe Burrow was getting up feeling worse for the wear on that one. But he, like I said, getting hit didn't necessarily make him underthrow the pass. He got hit after he had already thrown the pass away. And so it was just an underthrown ball, not a good decision by Joe Burrow, but it's kind of bailed out by the penalty. So if this had just been an interception without the penalty, we would have been putting a lot more blame on the decision-making of Joe Burrow in that situation. But Bengals kept the ball. They try another handoff and then a short pass to Ja'Marr Chase that falls incomplete on a deep out. So they have to settle for a 48-yard Evan McPherson field goal. 48 yards is no gimme, but certainly in this age in the NFL, when we've got people making field goals from 60 plus, shouldn't be that difficult. And, Evan McPherson, he got that big, $13.5 million contract extension coming in before this season. Ja'Marr Chase was waiting for his contract extension that didn't get signed, but Bengals had enough money to get a contract for Evan McPherson. So far, they haven't been getting a lot of good returns on that contract extension. Not to get ahead of myself, Bengals haven't been getting a lot of good returns on a lot of their investments decisions that they've been made, and for some reason, didn't decide to pay Ja'Marr Chase. So, 48-yard field goal, everything looks good. Evan McPherson misses it wide to the left. Kind of a hook on the ball, looked like a good snap, good hold. Evan's not able to give the team the lead. Ball goes back to the Chargers in pretty good field position at their own 38-yard line. Chargers drive, though, gets derailed when their left tackle gets a holding call when he's trying to block or hold Trey Hendrickson. So even though it doesn't go down as a sack, Trey Hendrickson forces that holding call against him. Basically, same net effect as getting a 10-yard sack because it pushes the other team back. That eventually forces the Chargers to punt. Trenton Irwin catches the punt and immediately gets blown up by some special teams guy for the Chargers. I think they said he just got called up from the practice squad to play in this game. I forget what the guy's name was, but whatever it was a good moment for him on national TV, blowing up Trenton Irwin. But after this, T. Higgins makes a nice catch, gets some nice run after the catch, dragging some more, 3 or 4 guys up the sidelines with him for another first down. Joe Burrow, I think it was 3rd down at this point. He's able to complete a pass to Andre Iosivas for a first down, but Chris Collinsworth points out immediately that he had Jamar Chase running wide open all by himself along the right sideline, and if he had thrown it to Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow would have had another touchdown connection in this game. Unfortunately, throws it to Iosivas, and it would have been an easy walk-in touchdown. Later in this drive, they've got T. Higgins one-on-one with cornerback Christian Fulton on the deep curl route to the right. T gets away with a little bit of a push-off. Fulton maybe gets away with a little bit of a grab on T. The officials just let him play. T's not able to make that one-handed catch, not able to bring it in. Brings up 3rd and 8 from the Chargers 33 right after the 2-minute warning. So 2 minutes left to go in the fourth quarter. 2 minutes left to go in the game. 3rd and 8. Joe Burrow tries to throw it past to Jamar Chase on a slant route to the right, but it's too far behind Jamar. He's not able to catch the pass. Just not a good, accurate pass by Joe Burrow. He, after the game, said this was one of the passes that he missed. Clutch situation. They really could have used this completion, but even if it was just to make this field goal attempt a little bit closer. And just a frustrating sequence of events because just a few plays before this, Joe Burrow did not see Jamar Chase on what would have been an easy touchdown. Then misses the pass to T. Higgins on the outside where T's not able to make the one-handed catch. Then throws a bad pass to Jamar Chase on the slant. So not Joe Burrow's best sequence of plays at this point. And now they've got to bring in Evan McPherson for another field goal, this time from 51 yards. Now he had just missed from 48 yards a few minutes before this, and now they're putting the graphic up on the screen. Evan McPherson for the season, 15 of 20 for field goals, only 75% made. And from over 50 yards, he had missed 3 in a row. This was number 4. And of course, he doesn't even hit the net. He misses it so far wide to the left, doesn't even hit the net, goes into the stands, not even close. Again, it looks like a good snap, good hold. The laces were facing backwards initially, but Ryan Rico did a good job of spinning the laces around to the front. So nothing going wrong there that Evan could blame. Just overcooked it, got a little bit of that draw going to the left and spinning it. And so he's missed from 48, missed from 51. Evan on the evening was only 2 for 4, 50% on his field goals. That's not going to get it done. And Evan McPherson at this point is one of the least accurate kickers in the NFL this season. Not what we would expect from our kicker that they just signed to a contract extension. But Chargers take over, still tie game with 1:48 left to go. They've got the ball at their own 41-yard line. They try a pass to Ladd McConkey, but it's incomplete. Mike Hilton, number 21 for the Bengals, is all over it, breaks it up. 2nd down. They try another pass, this time a short out to Ladd McConkey. But Mike Hilton is very aggressive, and he jumps the route, almost runs the route for McConkey. Almost has the interception, but he's just not able to complete the catch, bring it in. I don't think he would have had a pick 6 because McConkey probably would have been able to catch him and make the tackle, but definitely would have given the ball back to the Bengals in great field position. So missed opportunity from Mike Hilton. He wasn't able to make the catch there. 3rd and 10, Josh Newton, Fig Newton, number 28, he breaks up the pass, bats it down to Jordan Palmer, number 5 for the Chargers. So great job by the Bengals defense, forcing another punt and almost no time taken off the clock. The Chargers started with 1:48 left, and they're already giving the ball back with 1:34 left. So 3 and out, 3 incomplete passes. Good job by Bengals defense. Trent Irwin makes the fair catch for the Bengals at the 16-yard line with 1:26 left to go. Both teams have 2 timeouts. First down, Joe Burrow scrambles and picks up 14 yards after he's initially flushed out of the pocket. Cordell Volson continues to give up pressure on the inside, number 67. Both guards are giving up pressure, but on this play specifically, Volson loses, and then he doesn't get any help from Ted Karras, who's helping on a double team. The center and the right guard are double teaming their guy. Cordell Volson's stuck on a one-on-one. He loses. Joe Burrow sees it coming. He gets away, gets a 14-yard gain. Second down, after a short run, Joe Burrow tries a deep pass to Ja'Marr Chase. Ja'Marr Chase has a step and a half behind the defender, but it's just a little bit beyond Ja'Marr Chase's reach. And it's another overthrow by Joe Burrow. He said after the game, this was the second pass that he wishes he could have back in this game. First one being that slant on 3rd down in the previous drive that he wasn't able to connect on, threw it behind Ja'Marr. This one was a little bit of an overthrow. For whatever reason, they just haven't been able to have that connection on those deep passes. I don't know why it is. Joe Burrow really hasn't had that much success. A lot of Joe Burrow's long passes have been started off as short passes that Ja'Marr Chase was able to catch and then run the rest of the 50 yards with. But we haven't seen a great connection of Joe Burrow hitting passes 50 yards down the field. And those are hard to complete. But in this situation, Ja'Marr Chase has to take himself out of the game because he burnt up so much energy. He's out of breath. He can't go. So he takes himself out. And instead of calling timeout, Bengals run a play without Ja'Marr Chase on the field. Some people were criticizing the Bengals. They said, well, you need Ja'Marr Chase out there. So they should have called their second timeout, give him time to catch his breath, get back out there. But it's hindsight's 2020 just because it went incomplete. If the play had worked, they wouldn't be saying that. But 3rd and 10, Bengals drive. Joe Burrow is dropping back. And this time, Chargers realize, okay, we can't let Joe Burrow scramble and escape out of the pocket. So they rush 4, but they also have a 5th guy acting as a spy. Basically, just wherever Joe Burrow goes, he followed him. His only responsibility was eyes on Joe Burrow, track him down. So when Joe Burrow tried to escape, Deion Henley, their linebacker and leading tackler, he was all over Joe Burrow. As Joe Burrow tried to throw the pass, he saw T. Higgins coming wide open over the right, but Henley got the pressure on Joe Burrow before he could make an accurate pass. Ball just kind of wobbled out, fell short, incomplete. Joe Burrow's walking off the field, slaps himself in the helmet, kind of maybe thinking like, oh, he should have known there was going to be a guy there and he wasn't going to be able to do anything on that and get loose. On this play, T. Higgins I don't know if he came up a little bit gingerly at the end of this play, but hopefully it wasn't anything like his hamstring or his quad tightening up, but maybe he was just a little bit tired because it's the end of the game. These guys have been running route after route, play after play. They're getting fatigued, no doubt. So hopefully it was just a little bit of fatigue. But it's a bye week. T. Higgins will have plenty of time to recover. But you just don't like to see T. Higgins, it's the Ferrari. You don't want the smoke coming out of the back of the Ferrari. So let's get that checked out. But Joe Burrow, at this point, he's missed a few critical passes late in the game. He's always very hard on himself, so I'm sure he's going to go back and look at this and say, there were some passes that I should have and could have completed in this game that would have given us a better chance to win. But, the Bengals have had multiple chances at this point, but Evan McPherson has missed 2 makeable field goals. Joe Burrow has done what you would say was a pretty good job of getting the team in position to take the lead. They just weren't able to take it over the edge. But in this situation, Ryan Rico gets off another huge punt. Ryan Rico punts it. He's standing on his own 20-yard line. Ball lands at the opposite 6, basically. So it's like a 65-yard punt, 64-yard punt, travels about 75 yards in the air. Good hang time. Again, Tyson Anderson makes a good special teams open field tackle, pinning the Chargers on their own 15-yard line with 45 seconds left to go in regulation. Mike Tirico from NBC points out this is the rare third kick inside the 2-minute warning. You got the missed field goal and then 2 punts. This is also, Justin Herbert has had 7 straight incompletions at this point, tying the longest stretch of his career of most passes without a completion. Bengals cornerbacks have done a better job after Cam Taylor-Britt got benched, it seems like. And even though Cam Taylor-Britt is back on the field, maybe that had kind of the effect not only on him, but everybody else on the defense, like, hey, if you're not playing up to the standard, you're going to be sitting on the bench or watching from the sidelines. So that's a message to everybody, like, you could be next if you don't, pick up the play. So you, Cam Taylor-Britt, and everybody else better pick it up, or you're going to find yourself on the bench. Like, obviously, they can't bench everybody, but that just sends a message that the Bengals coaches won't hesitate to pull you out if you're not meeting the standard. But 1st and 10, Justin Herbert is able to break that incompletion streak and completes an out and up to Ladd McConkey over Mike Hilton, who had been so aggressive on the previous drive. And maybe they were taking a little bit of advantage of Mike Hilton's aggression, where he had previously tried to jump that out route and make that interception. This time, they fake the out, go up Mike Hilton. He's not too far out of position, but Justin Herbert makes a good throw. McConkey makes a great catch at the high point up over Hilton, who's not very tall anyway, but good solid catch along the sideline, picks up a 1st down. Next play, incomplete to Disley, who is diving at the ball. So even if he would have caught it, their time is running out here. Chargers would have had to call a timeout, burn one. So it probably worked out better for the Chargers that it was an incomplete pass. Stop the clock there. I'm also noticing at this point that since maybe Sheldon Rankins, number 98 for the Bengals, has been sick, out for this game, they've got their linebacker, number 55, Logan Wilson, middle linebacker, is like blitzing up the middle next to BJ Hill. So they've got, I think it's Trey Hendrickson, Joseph Osai, BJ Hill, and then Logan Wilson up the middle. They've also got Jermaine Pratt and Hakeem Davis-Gaither, and then a bunch of defensive backs out there. So they're playing kind of a speed prevent defense because Chargers only have 45 seconds and 85 yards to go. But this is where, people say prevent defense prevents you from winning the game. This defensive strategy did not work out in the Bengals' favor at all, because first play, Chargers converted for a 1st down. Second play, they hit another deep laser to McConkey on the left side. Perfect cover 2 beater route where Geno Stone, the safety on that side, has absolutely no chance, no possible way that he's going to get over in time to make a play on this pass, because, like I said, Justin Herbert is just throwing such perfect passes on a line that the defense just has no time to react. And as long as his receivers can catch him and he doesn't throw a hole through these guys, it's going to be a completion. That's what it does. McConkey gets out of bounds. So the Chargers are basically working the ball all the way down the field in 2 plays. They're already within field goal range at this point, and the Bengals defense is just looking completely hopeless. At this point, Chargers bring in some of their big people back on the field, so that forces the Bengals to get out of this prevent fast guys defense. They bring in their regular base defense with their big guys on the field. Chargers do a run play, and J.K. Dobbins, the running back for the Chargers, breaks through some weak-ass tackling up front from Jermaine Pratt. Geno Stone makes a weak diving tackle, and Cam Taylor-Britt has got an opportunity out in the open field, but he gets stiff-armed in the face, doesn't get a hand on J.K. Dobbins, and J.K. Dobbins does kind of a somersault into the end zone. While he's running into the end zone, Chris Collinsworth is talking about go down, because I guess he's saying at that point, it's more important to run the clock out all the way to zeros, and so you can score right at the end so the other team has absolutely no time left to make a comeback. But that's really overcomplicating things because J.K. Dobbins said after the game, he went over to the coaches and asked them, what should I do in this situation? Should you want me to score or go down and take a knee at like the 1 yard line or something? Because in theory, you just take a knee at the 1 yard line, let the clock run out to 1 second left, call timeout, run the field goal, team on there, kick a field goal, win the game. In theory, that's all great, but you can always have something go wrong with the snap, the hold, the field goal could get blocked, could just miss a field goal. You just watched Evan McPherson miss 2 field goals in this game. So there's no guarantee that the kicker is going to make a field goal. Whereas if you got the guy with the ball in his hands and he's right in front of the end zone, it's guaranteed 6 points right there. So Chargers probably did the smart thing and just go ahead and score the touchdown in this scenario. They kick the extra point, take a 7-point lead. Bengals have 18 seconds left. So not a lot of time for the Bengals to do much of anything, but they do have those timeouts left. Cameras show the Chargers obviously celebrating, going crazy. They've just taken the lead. And then they transition to a very dejected and sad-looking Cam Taylor-Britt taking off his helmet and walking off the field. Cam Taylor-Britt is getting a lot of camera time in this game for a guy who got benched and was not very good and has given up more touchdowns than anybody in the NFL this season. So he better soak it up while he can. He may not be getting on TV for very much longer if he's standing on the sidelines because nobody's going to care. Like, not to be a hater too much, but that's one of the things it seems like Cam Taylor-Britt has been more interested in from the time he was on the Bengals roster, was getting in front of the cameras, smiling and mugging and celebrating and doing all these dances on Instagram, and all that stuff is great. But you have to go out there and play good football. And if you're not playing good football, nobody cares. So he can have a great social media following. But as Dave Chappelle said, and I don't know if Dave Chappelle been canceled yet. If he's not, Dave Chappelle one time made a quote I thought was very insightful. He was talking about fame and celebrities. And, he's obviously a huge worldwide famous comedian. But he said, famous people can never become unfamous. You can only become infamous, meaning you're famous for something until you do something so negative that people turn against you and cancel you. And now all of a sudden, instead of being known for the positive thing, now that whatever negative thing you did has completely overshadowed that, and you've become an infamous villain instead of being the hero. And so hopefully that doesn't happen to Cam Taylor-Britt. Hopefully he's able to bounce back from this. But that's kind of shows you how easily fans can turn, how the sentiment can turn against you on social media. 1 minute, fans on social media love you. They're buying your jersey, saying they're going to vote for you in the Pro Bowl. Next minute, you're giving up touchdowns and you're getting, bad grades on PFF, and they're saying how you're, graded as one of the worst players in the NFL. So then you have people on social media coming at you with that, saying, man, you suck. They should cut you. I don't know why I wasted this money buying your jersey and all that kind of stuff. So it can go either way with this whole social media game. Got to be careful these days. But Bengals, they get the ball back. They're able to complete a pass, another incredible Joe Burrow pass where he's leaping out of the way, throws it to Andre Iosivas over the middle, who himself makes a nice grab behind himself to reach out and get it. 3 seconds left. Bengals have one last shot at the end zone from the Chargers' 43.5-yard line. They got all their big name players out there. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Andre Iosivas, Mike Gesicki, Chase Brown in the backfield. Joe Burrow lined up behind center in the shotgun. Joe Burrow, he doesn't have much time because Amarius Mims gives up pretty quick pressure off the right edge. Joe Burrow has to throw it maybe just a hair sooner than he would have liked, but he's able to get enough on it to get it close to the end zone. It looked like it came down maybe about at the 1 yard line. Ideally, you probably want to get that ball all the way into the end zone so that if somebody catches it, they're already going to be standing in the end zone, no doubt about it. In this scenario, even if T. Higgins would have been able to catch it, he probably would have scored a touchdown. But he was like just barely on the edge of the end zone. So in any case, Derwin James, the safety slash cornerback for the Chargers, is able to knock the ball down, knock it out of T. Higgins' hands, incomplete. Chargers win the game 34-27. Chargers record improves to 7-3. Bengals record falls to 4-7 for the season, going into their bye week. After the game, they showed Jim Harbaugh in the post-game victory speech. They always show the coach from the winning side in the locker room celebrating with the team. And this was no different. And as they do typically, Jim Harbaugh led everyone in a rousing round of high fives with everybody. He said it was a great team win. Gave congratulations to everyone. And then Derwin James was even hugging Jim Harbaugh in their locker room. But I guess it's like the saying of the thrill of victory, the agony of defeat. They want to show that moment of ecstasy, the champions, the victories, feeling great. Everybody's slapping each other on the back. You don't often see looks inside the losing team's locker room. I would really be curious to see what some of these Zach Taylor speeches are sounding like after loss number 7 of the season, where they supposedly had such high expectations for what the team was going to achieve. And then what does Zach Taylor say to the team? Because what he says to the media in the press conferences after these losses is very consistent in the messaging of basically saying, like, we're doing everything right. It's just we're coming up one play short. It's not the same thing every time. Every game is different. And we're playing good football, and we're a good football team, and we believe in the players and the coaches and yada, yada, yada. But just the same song and dance every week. And it's just getting so repetitive. And finally, the reporters are asking him, because he's saying, I know, I have confidence. We're going to turn this thing around, and we're going to have a dang good season when we do, because it's going to be real special when we get this thing, get the momentum turned around in our favor. Oh boy, you watch out. So finally, the reporters are like, what gives you so much confidence that you will be able to turn this thing around? Because out of the first 11 games, you lost 7 of them. So how is it all of a sudden just going to change, flip the switch, just start winning games out of nowhere? And he was basically like, well, I'm not just saying this to convince other people. I mean, I actually believe this stuff. Like, what? I wouldn't just be trying to sell you a bill of goods. But, as the team loses more games, more and more fans are naturally just going to tune out, have less interest. From a financial aspect, since this is a money-making enterprise, for the Bengals, they've already sold the season tickets. They've already got the money for the tickets. Now it's just a matter of getting people to come to the game, to spend even more money in the stadium, buying, clothing, beer, food, pizza, chicken tenders, all that kind of stuff. They've got your money, but they could use more of the money for the rest of the season too. So don't stop coming to the game. Don't pay less attention. Don't pull back and spend less time being interested. But everybody as fans has to make their own decision about how much time, money, interest they want to put into this team. If they feel like the team isn't giving their return on their investment of whatever that resource is, they may decide to invest less of that resource into the team for the rest of this season. But let's get into the statistics quickly of the game. There's plenty of time to get into what this game means. But really, it's just one game, a part of the largest season. There's plenty of time to write the ending for this season. We don't know which way it's going to go from here. But as a team, it wasn't really that imbalanced one way or the other. Both teams had 24 first downs in the game, 14 passing. Bengals had 6 rushing, 4 off a penalty. Chargers very similar, 7 rushing, 3 off a penalty. Bengals had 452 yards, Chargers 435 yards. Chargers were very successful in the first half, especially. I think at one point they were getting like 8.8 yards per play, like almost 9 yards per play. The Chargers were just getting huge chunks. They were a little bit slower in the second half, obviously not being able to score as many points. I don't know, like they asked, both teams, especially for the Bengals, like, what did you guys change? What was different? It's really not a matter of something that changed, or people would say, oh, the team got the momentum. There wasn't anything where all of a sudden somebody changed something. I mean, obviously they took Cam Taylor-Britt off of the field and put Josh Newton in at cornerback. So that was a literal change on the defense. They asked Zach Taylor after the game, why did you take Cam Taylor-Britt out? And he said, consistency. That was his only explanation that he's given so far with Cam Taylor-Britt is consistency. We want to see consistency. He doesn't go into details. And obviously, he's a player's coach. He's not going to throw Cam Taylor-Britt under the bus and come out and say, because he was playing the wrong coverage, he didn't even get into the right zone when he was supposed to be there, or he gave up 2 touchdowns and he was playing like garbage, so that's why we took him out. What do you think? Like, he can't say that stuff. So he's just got, consistency, we want to see, which is kind of funny because consistency would be leaving him in. I guess he means more consistently good plays. You could say he's been playing consistently bad, but whatever. He's going to be playing because DJ Turner broken clavicle. He's out the rest of the season, so Cam Taylor-Britt is going to be starting again by default. It's amazing how he got benched and promoted back to starter in the exact same game. That'll be interesting to see what goes on going forward. Cam Taylor-Britt did not speak to the media after the game, as you would maybe expect. I mean, they didn't talk to Evan McPherson either, the kicker who missed the 2 decisive field goals for the Bengals. He didn't want to answer any questions. Maybe they'll talk to him after the bye week. We'll see. Eventually, they're going to have to talk to the media. It's part of their contractual obligations. They can't duck that. But in the moment, I can understand how the emotions, they were feeling very emotional at the time. So it's probably better to not say anything than to say something they might regret in that moment. But in the statistics, passing-wise, Joe Burrow actually had more passing yards, 356 to Justin Herbert's 297. Joe Burrow was 28 of 50 for no interceptions, 3 touchdowns. So only 56% completion percentage for Joe Burrow. Again, well under that 69 or 70 average that Joe Burrow is sitting around. Justin Herbert, 17 of 36, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, but Justin Herbert did have that fumble. That was his first turnover at all, and that was the only turnover in the game. Bengals actually won the turnover margin 1-0, and that's one of the things that Zach Taylor has been preaching about. Win the turnover battle, then you can win the game. Bengals actually won the turnover battle, got that fumble that was so decisive and critical in their comeback, and then yet they lost the game. Bengals actually had time of possession by almost 10 or 9 minutes, 34 minutes time of possession to Chargers 26. Actually, 8 minutes. Take it back. But let's click over to individually rushing. Chase Brown, not terrible. 22 rushes, 86 yards. No touchdowns, long of 27. Average of 3.9 per carry. Joe Burrow, 2 carries, 28 yards. Both of his carries were for 14 yards. So that was pretty good by Joe Burrow, but he did also take 3 sacks. If you want to look at the ratings, Joe Burrow's passer rating was a 98.4 and his QBR out of 100. So passer rating is out of 100, 158.3. Yeah, I think that's it. 158.3. Joe Burrow had a 98.4. QBR out of 100, 84.2. 3 sacks at 14 yards, but he really couldn't do anything on most of those sacks. He was hit, like I said, 14 times in the game. Herbert, passer rating of 94.3. QBR out of 100 was 40.9. So even though Herbert started off hot, he had that string of 7 incomplete passes in a row and a fumble, which was very costly at that moment in the game to let the Bengals basically tie the game back up. So that probably hurt the old QBR. And as far as receiving, T. Higgins in his first game back led the Bengals in catches, yards, and targets. T had 13 targets, 9 catches, 148 yards, and 1 touchdown, long of 42. That 4th and 2 touchdown was his long. Then he was followed by Jamar Chase, also 13 targets, tied for targets. Jamar was only able to convert 7 of those into catches, 75 yards, 2 touchdowns, long of 32. Chase Brown, 3rd overall, 5 catches on 7 targets, 57 yards, a long of 34. I think the long of 34 was one of those Joe Burrow scrambles. He found Chase Brown streaking over the middle. Andre Iosivas, 3 for 3 this game. Andre, 100% on catches, 46 yards, no touchdowns, long of 27. But that's an improvement. Andre's been kind of quiet on the stat sheet. Tanner Hudson had a couple catches. Drew Sample, 1 catch for 9 yards. And Jermaine Burton, though, continues to underwhelm. Only 1 catch at the beginning of the game on 4 targets for 8 yards. Had a number of other opportunities he wasn't able to convert, including that one on 3rd and short at the end zone. He only got 1 hand on it. Not a great play. And then Mike Gesicki, 0 for 2, but there was one where Joe Burrow had Mike Gesicki wide open. Just a bad pass from Joe Burrow. And there was another one where Gesicki slipped and fell down. So not a great night for Gesicki, unfortunately. Chargers, actually Justin Herbert was their leading rusher with 65 yards on 5 carries, the long of 30. So Justin Herbert was really gashing them on the ground. J.K. Dobbins, 11 carries, 56 yards. So an average of 5.1 per carry and also 2 touchdowns, a long of 29. I think that 29-yarder was the last play of the game for the Chargers on offense to score that touchdown. Gus Edwards, also 27 yards on 6 carries. Ladd McConkey led the Chargers, 6 catches, 123 yards on 9 targets. Will Dissly, 4 catches, 80 yards, 1 touchdown. Quentin Johnston, 2 catches, 48 yards, and a touchdown. Josh Palmer, Darius Davis, and a couple other guys added catches, but Deion Henley, 11 total tackles. Derwin James, 10 total tackles. Comparing the QB hits defensively, Chargers as a team had 14 hits, 5 tackles for loss, 3 sacks. Compared to the Bengals, 6 QB hits, 4 tackles for loss, 2 sacks. So a couple sacks. Bengals have had some games where they didn't get any sacks or barely any quarterback hits. So a little bit of pressure in this game. Maybe having Sheldon Rankins out, they had to change up the roster, so maybe that had something to do with it. But pretty even game overall. I can't disagree with Zach Taylor when he says they're just one play away here or there. But it's really disheartening to lose these games that are so close. And it's it just seems to work out that way that the other team wins. But eventually it's it wears on you where it's this can't just be coincidence, right? It's got to be some kind of a pattern. There's a theme going on here. I'm starting to notice. But as Zach Taylor says, don't worry. After that bye week, as somebody pointed out, the Bengals are 3-0 the last 3 games coming out of a bye week under Zach Taylor. So Zach Taylor has got some kind of secret plan in the bye week. He's going to get it figured out. And the Steelers are going to be the next game. But we'll have plenty of time to cover all of that. If you've listened to this marathon episode, thank you so much. One last bit of news before we get out of here. I mentioned how people who are famous can only become infamous. One former famous Cincinnati Bengal who has now become infamous is Adam Pac-Man Jones. You may have heard Adam was arrested in Dallas before the Mike Tyson-Jake Paul boxing, whatever. Apparently, you will be shocked and surprised to learn that Pac-Man was arrested for being drunk and disorderly and some kind of maybe assault or battery or getting into it with an officer of the peace. and resisting arrest and all kinds of things you would do if you're publicly intoxicated. So another lesson to the kids out there, public intoxication remains a crime. It is illegal for a good reason. It's to protect you and others, because we are intoxicated in public, bad things happen, like getting arrested. So don't be like Pac-Man. Be intoxicated, not in public, if you're going to do it. A lot of Bengals fans are probably going to have to take some intoxicants at this point in the season. They're 4-7. It's not looking good. Realistically, there's probably going to be a team that gets into the playoffs with 8 losses. There's probably going to be a team at 9-8 from the AFC get into the playoffs. So the Bengals have 6 games left. If they still have room to lose one more game. They're still in this thing. You know, they still have life. There's still a pulse. So if you're a hardcore Bengals fan, you're not going anywhere. So don't forget to subscribe to this show. Give me a thumbs up, 5-star, whatever rating. Tell your friends. Be like, oh man, there's this super long, detailed podcast that covered way more analysis than you even wanted. You can check it out. It's called Bengal Bites. Send me an email at bengalbitespodcast@gmail.com, and I'll be sure to read your comment on the show. But until next time, I'm going to leave you with a hooday and stay hungry for more Bengal Bites.